Yeah, I think that anyone that comes to this country that wants to be a citizen of this country has a responsibility to assimilate into the fabric of this country. That being said, there's a lot more to the fabric of this country than a lot of people are willing to embrace, I guess I should say. But back to this Sharia law thing, for example, I think that first of all, if they're coming to this country to escape such things as that, and many people do, they assimilate into this country necessarily because that's what they're fleeing from. But to transform America into the country they just left would absolutely make no sense whatsoever. I think that the diversity is necessary for a thriving country and thriving communities. But I think that people that come to this country have a responsibility to, speak English. I think it would be a good starting point. And it's always been that way for immigrants forever and ever. I mean, they came here, one of the first things a lot of them did was learn how to speak English. But regardless of where they came from, people have an individual identity. They have things that they believe in and hold dear to them. I don't think that you can expect people to come here from another country to become an American, to do everything that Lindsay Sutton does on Saturdays and on Sundays and through the week and whatever, because that's my personal business. But when we're talking about religion and back to the issue of the mosques, if the religion violates others' rights, I mean, it goes back to the Constitution. You worship as you feel you should. But the rights of the rights that are protected by the Constitution, they don't allow you to do things that interfere with my rights, and things such as the right to life when you have suicide bombers, et cetera, et cetera. Of course, that's where you draw the line. Of course, that's where you make the distinction. But I can tell you that not only in my military career, because I've been in several countries, but I was a truck driver for 6 years, went to several different states and know a lot of folks from all sorts of different religions and a lot of good folks, a lot of good Americans. We have media, we have news media, and we have all these other things in this country that are pushing people apart. But the one fundamental thing that brings everybody together, even immigrants today, not our forefather immigrants, is the fundamental principle of freedom. That's why they come here when we're talking about in communities where they do establish mosques and things of that nature. In our communities, we need to be on guard for anything that's not right in the community, crimes of all sorts, etc.
Next question from Denny Wyckoff.
Yeah, how do you feel about term limits?
Here we go with another unpopular answer, but a truthful one. There is a big push for term limits. A lot of folks say we got term limit, get these guys in there, get these guys out. And the reason is pretty obvious. We've got old folks in there that have been doing bad stuff for a long, long time, and it seems like we can't get rid of them. And so if you had term limits, well, then they'd go away anyway, whether you did anything or not, eventually, depending on what the term limits are. On the other hand, you have people in there who have fought a hard fight for years and years and years. And Ron Paul, I mention his name a lot because he's one of the most prominent figures in U.S. Congress, has been in there fighting that fight for years. I don't even remember how many terms he's been in there. But he has been pushing for the U.S. Constitution to be upheld. That's his, I may not agree with everything that the man says, but he understands the Constitution, and he understands that's going to be our ultimate answer to getting this country back where it's supposed to be. So let's say he was term limited back in the 70s. I mean, who would be fighting the fight now? I don't know. Maybe somebody else would have come to service. I really don't know that. But let me speak for me. I'm term limiting myself. If I were to be elected, I'm going to stay there as short a period of time as I can. Because what I'm going to be doing is looking for someone to come and take my place. Me entering this race was out of necessity. There was talk about jobs, talk about jobs and talk about issue after issue after issue, and nothing about the Constitution, nothing about the fundamental problems that this country has because we haven't followed the Constitution. I'm willing to come back home and go fishing, play with the grandkids for the rest of my days if I'm assured that someone is going to come and take my place that understands the U.S. Constitution. Because until we have that, I can't come back to be just a typical everyday citizen unless I have that knowledge that someone's there watching my back. So when I entered this race, and folks that supported me in the primary, and if there's anybody here that did, I appreciate it. I was a write-in candidate, so it's kind of tough that you write my name and say they were a Constitution Party member and all the other things. But for those who supported me in the primary, I told them that the very most that I would stay in there is 6 years. That's my own term limit. And because there's a lot of initiatives I want to do within the first year. And some of those have to do with what happens right here in our district. I'd like to see the entire staff of the Ohio 18th Congressional Office be from the state of Ohio, be from this area, actually from this district. I'd like to see the chief of staff be from this district, an attorney from within this district. Not some Washington person that I'm going to go there and meet and we don't even know what their background is. I'm out of time, sorry.
Well, term limits ought to really be established by the people when they go to vote. And if your representative's not doing his or her job, throw them out. One aspect that doesn't get much, you don't hear much about, where there really ought to be term limits is on leadership. I learned this when I first got in the Ohio General Assembly back in '03. There's really three important people in Columbus: the governor, the Speaker of the House, and the President of the Senate. And they have a lot of power because, I'll give you an example. A senator like myself introduces a bill. The President of the Senate doesn't like it. He won't even get a hearing. You can tell the chairman don't get a hearing, or if the committee chairman decides to go to a hearing and the committee passes it, it goes to Rules Committee, which the President of the Senate is the chairman. They can stop it in rules. So that the leadership has an inordinate amount of power. I don't think a lot of people realize that. And when you get in Congress, where you've got people in there for decades and they become chairman, like Rangel, the Ways and Means Committee, well, he's, he doesn't even pay his taxes apparently, and he writes the tax. Well, I know that, but he writes the tax law, so it's even more of an abuse. But those in Congress, the chairman, when they have an inordinate amount of power, and at the very least, we ought to term limit how long people can be chairman or in leadership, and let that. And I more prefer the people decide on their individual senator or representative at that when they go to vote, because it's people's house to house every 2 years. Those make that determination. But you, us as constituents, we don't really have the determination of who's going to be chairman of those committees when they're in there, especially when they come from areas like Rangel and have no say in those people. Who knows why they vote for people like that? But that's a real problem, and I think that would fix more. Because, like I say, if you do have a good representative, and that person gets reelected handsomely every time, obviously he must be doing what the people in this community thinks he's doing. But one thing happens is these people get, especially people in leadership and chairman committees, they can bring in a lot of campaign money because of the way the system works, and that's a problem. I really think that's a problem too. So, if we rotate people out of the leadership chairman, I think would have a better and positive impact. And because if you got a good rep and you want him to stay there, not to say he could be there 6, 8 years, or 12 years, whatever, and you could get another person. But if he's doing the right thing, he or she's doing the right thing. That's why no problem. Now, I'll give you an example. We have term limits here in Ohio. And now we got the Democrats to go to the House 2 years ago, and the Speaker of the House is a second term. And I'll tell you, I went over there and watched some of their sessions. They're incompetent. I mean, it's just unbelievable, the nonsense they go through, and they don't know what they're doing. And the legislative process actually breaks down. So that's a concern. I would support term limits if it's a reasonable number of years, maybe 12. I would support that. And I'm not going to be there for 12 years when I go to Congress.
Bruce, I think you had another question.
Yeah, I have a couple. The political correctness is ridiculous. I think you better say things the way that they're meant to be said, get to the point, cut the red tape. Profiling, I'm for. America's just worried about hurting someone's feelings. That's ridiculous. We have military colleges, Annapolis, Air Force, West Point, Coast Guard. We train professionals to take care of our problems. But our representatives aren't declaring war. When a war is declared, we should go over there, take care of it, reasonable time, and come home. We have military equipment sitting on the side, and it's sitting there, and our citizenry is getting butchered. Are you going to permit this to continue to go on? It's time America becomes Americans once more, and people have some respect for us.
I think on an earlier question, I already addressed that. I said, if we're going to go over and fight a war, we need to go there and fight with all the resources we have as the greatest nation in the world, and don't pull any punches, and win and bring our troops home. We don't tell them what we're going to do, other than we're going to say we're going to win, and everything's on the table. So that's how I stand. And I think I was just disgusted here. When was it? 6 months ago, whenever it was. So maybe back in August, I think, when Congress almost went home for summer recess and didn't appropriate enough money for the troops, and they did at the last minute. They did haphazardly, and then they also, when our generals asked for more troops, it took 6 months or however long it was to make that decision, and then they gave them a little, not the full request. So, like you say, we've got a great military personnel. We've trained them well, and when we send them to do a mission, let them do their mission. So, that's where I'm at. If they need body armor or the things for the IUDs and all that, there's no excuse for us not providing that. And we should say to the terrorists that, because we know that they're hell-bent to destroy us, okay? And we gotta let them know that we're gonna come after you, and we're not gonna, play footsie with you. We're coming after you, and we're gonna destroy you, and we gotta be clear about that. And I think we have so much military might. If we use it the way appropriately, I think you see a lot of this problems will end. But when you go around and don't, let the military do what they need to do, and you don't have, as a member of Congress.